Chapter 986, Lu Shu's Plan. Lu Shu did not live in the house that the Songji gambling den helped him to purchase. He knew that there would always be gaps in protection. Furthermore, the Songji gambling den was not a spy organization. The news of them buying a house would definitely leak out. Thus, when Lu Shu entered the house, he would be witnessed by countless people. Many people had been cheated by Lu Shu. Furthermore, they had come to take part in the sword hut selections. It would be enough for them to face these candidates. But Lu Shu was different. There were many people in the palace who wanted him dead. Thus, if others said that coming to the palace for the sword hut selections was difficult, it would be hellishly difficult for Lu Shu. To be honest, Lu Shu did not know what frightening things would happen if he stepped into that house. He brought Lu Xiaoyu to an inn. Since they were rich, they requested for the best room. After all, it was an experience. Coming to the Luniverse was like traveling. When they were outside the country, they would eat well and sleep well. This was what the people of China thought. Lu Xiaoyu rarely went out. Thus, since Lu Xiaoyu was here, Lu Shu wanted her to experience the best. The best room in the inn was different from what Lu Shu had expected. In wuxia dramas, the best room was on the top floor with the best scenery. However, the room would not be very big. But the inns in the palace were different. The best room was an entire courtyard. There were fake mountains and rivers. It seemed like the mountain villas on Earth. It was very impressive. Lu Shu sat in the courtyard and continually ate fruits. The celestial fruits had advanced into nebula fruits, but it was still very tiring to eat them. There was just too much to eat. Lu Xiaoyu sat by the side and settled the accounts. She had taken down all the income and expenses throughout the entire journey in her account book. She had even calculated the resources that Lu Shu had gathered from the large organizations on Earth. I think that you can upgrade the Weiwu army's weapons. You have thousands of weapons in the Seal of Lands. The Weiwu army will not use up many weapons. You can even bring the combat power of the entire Weiwu army up by one level. Lu Xiaoyu calmly analyzed. If you want to sell them, putting too many weapons up for sale will disrupt the market. You won't be able to sell them for a good price. Of course, the money that you have now will be exchanged for weapons and armor. Our way of thinking is the same. Money is not important. What is important is what it is exchanged for. Thus, don't sell the standard weapons that you have now. You can use some to equip the Weiwu army. No problem, said Lu Shu as he ate the fruits. These standard weapons were used to coax the secret practitioners. They are not of good quality. Do you want to give them the tridents? Chaos still has over 10,000 tridents to eat. As he spoke, Lu Shu felt that he was very rich. But Lu Xiaoyu rejected Lu Shu's suggestion. I think that we should wait and see. Although the Weiwu army is loyal to you, if you give them tridents, they might become over-reliant on their weapons. I think that it is best to give them the tridents after their abilities have advanced to another level. Lu Shu looked at Lu Xiaoyu and sighed with emotion. In the past, she did not think about affairs like this. But now, she was planning intricate details for him. Lu Xiaoyu was already very obedient, but now, she was forcing herself to be even more obedient in order to match Lu Shu. Lu Shu could sense that Lu Xiaoyu was forcing herself to grow and share the pressures with Lu Shu. You take the lead, said Lu Shu. I don't dare to unlock the 5th level of nebula yet. With the fruits I have now, I can light up the 5th star of the 5th nebula, which is a high rank one. But I am afraid that when I reach a new level of nebula, it will trigger a heavenly vision or the sound of the Tao. Thus, I think that it is best to find a suitable place to do so. For some reason, Lu Shu felt that something major would happen the moment he unlocked the 5th level of nebula. He did not know how the sound of the Tao would be like when his celestial map advanced to rank 1, but he had an unpleasant premonition. It was never wrong to be more prudent. Advancing in the palace would be too aggressive. The distress points that Lu Shu had accumulated had reached hundreds of millions. Lu Shu thought about it. Had he really caused so much trouble during this period of time? But Lu Shu realized that not only could he light up the fifth star of the fifth level of Nebula, Lu Xiaoyu had accumulated enough distress points to unlock the fifth level as well. It was time to find an opportunity to bring Lu Xiaoyu and advance to rank 1 together. The Luniverse was very chaotic. Lu Shu could only relax once Lu Xiaoyu had advanced to rank 1. Furthermore, Lu Shu thought about it. Typical practitioners would be able to fly when they achieved rank 1. Furthermore, their abilities and methods would improve. So, would there be any new changes when he unlocked the fifth level of Nebula? Lu Shu was quite excited. This seemed like a major stage, where quantitative change turned into qualitative change. He anticipated the surprise that the celestial map would bring to him and Lu Xiaoyu. At that moment, Yi Qian returned. He softly said a few words to Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu. Then, Lu Shu packed his things and went out with Yi Qian. The palace at night was bustling. It was decorated with lanterns and colorful banners. The people seemed to be free of troubles. The shops along the street were flourishing. Lu Shu felt as if he was at a night market on Earth, where people crowded together and walked around. Lu Shu followed Yi Qian and finally reached a deserted alley. There was no one in the alley, but Lu Shu could sense waves of energy. He looked up and looked at the wall of the alley. It was pitch black. Lu Shu also stood in the shadows so that the person would not be able to see him. There was a voice. "Are you Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army? What have you come here for?" Lu Shu remained calm and composed. He said, "It is risky for rank 2s to participate in the Sword Hut selections. I'm sure that you know better than me. I know that a few of you have formed an alliance to counter the rank 1s. The person on the wall did not speak, as if he was waiting for Lu Shu to continue. Lu Shu smiled and continued. "Although I am first, you know that I am only a rank 2. Thus, I'd like to join you and counter those rank 1 experts. How about it?" Lu Shu felt that his plan was perfect. Although he was ranked first, it was indicated that he was still rank 2 in ability. It would be very pleasant if rank 2s defeated rank 1s and finished their operations. At that moment, the person on the wall said, "No need to trick us. Someone from the Sun family has told us that you have attained rank 1. Lu Shu was shocked. What in the world? Could they just let him plan a decent plan? Huh? When Sun Zhongyang left in the day, Lu Shu was still curious why the son of a wealthy family like him was able to stand the humiliation. So he had been waiting for him. Chapter 987, Illegitimate Child. The elimination of Ding Qiushui was the prologue to the Sword Hut selections. Everyone grew nervous. Lu Shu did not expect Sun Zhongyang to leak the news that he had advanced to rank 1. He had failed to break into the ranks of the rank 2s. Not only that, he had been ranked first as a rank 2. But at that moment, Ding Qiushui was the strongest. Thus, everyone was unhappy with Lu Shu's ranking, but saw Ding Qiushui as the most troublesome candidate. They were unhappy, but did not plan anything that targeted him. After all, he was only a rank 2. Even the losses that the people inside and outside the palace had made in the gambling dens, it was nothing compared to the importance of the Sword Hut selections. Who would calculate the money they had lost in the past during the Sword Hut selections? They would definitely get rid of their past resentment and calmly think about who to target. But now, it was different. He was a rank 1, it felt as if many people had old scores and new grievances against him. Lu Shu looked at the person on the wall and asked curiously, "Do you really believe the Sun family?" "Why not? The Sun family has no reason to trick us. There is no conflict of interest." The person laughed coldly. Lu Shu was puzzled. Then, if you know that I am a rank 1, why do you still dare to speak to me? Within the 2 days that Lu Shu had entered the palace, the number of candidates had dropped from 46 to 44. Up till this point, Lu Shu was responsible for all those who had been eliminated. It had nothing to do with the rest. Lu Shu moaned and groaned as he led Yi Qian back to the inn. There were 3 houses in the courtyard, 1 for each person. Lu Shu went back and continued to eat fruits. Lu Xiaoyu curiously asked Yi Qian what had happened. After Yi Qian had explained the situation to her, he asked curiously, was the king always so irritable? To Yi Qian, Lu Shu was very irritable. The rank 2 would not have been able to run away. He was fiercely beaten up after being pinned to the ground by Lu Shu. Lu Shu even asked for ransom from him. Lu Xiaoyu calmly said, he has a special ability. Yi Qian was even more curious. How was his special ability involved in this? He could not help but ask, what special ability? He has the ability to make dog poop regret before him when he steps on dog poop. Yi Qian was speechless. Lu Shu clearly knew that there were some gaps in his ability to plan. After all, a majority of his intricate plans had not succeeded. Even the plan to purposely trick Sun Zhongyang and the rest when Lin Lin was eavesdropping on them had been brought up by Lu Xiaoyu. But Lu Shu was not convinced. Why did Lu Xiaoyu's plans always succeed? Why was it that he always harmed himself with his plans? He was mocked by Lu Xiaoyu at night. Lu Shu could not take this humiliation. He had to change Lu Xiaoyu's view of him. He had to show her that his plans would work too. If not, how would he protect his dignity? During breakfast in the morning, when Lu Shu saw Lu Xiaoyu laughing at him, he was unhappy. What are you laughing at? I have thought it through last night. My plans in the past might have been wrong. With my abilities now, do I really need to work with a rank 2? No. Suddenly, Lu Xiaoyu interrupted him. I want to ask you something. Where do your fruits come from? Lu Shu was stern. I am talking about something important here. Don't interrupt me. I think that I have to change my strategy. Ha! Ha! Lu Xiaoyu folded her arms and laughed coldly. Last night, all the stars in the 4th nebula had lit up. Since Lu Shu's celestial map had been locked up, there was no way for him to train. She was slightly curious about where these fruits had come from. Lu Shu was not willing to tell her. There was definitely something fishy about this secret that he could not tell others about. Yi Qian asked, Boss, what strategy are you planning to change? Lu Shu looked at Yi Qian, as if he was telling him, you are very obedient. Then, he continued the conversation. Why do we have to work together with rank 2s? Not only are they weak, there are a lot of them. They definitely have evil intentions. Since the news that I have advanced to rank 1 has leaked out, we have to work together with rank 1s to kick the rank 2s out. Perfect. That's perfect? Lu Xiaoyu did not share her opinion. Yi Qian went out. After Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had come to the Luniverse, they were unfamiliar with their surroundings. But Yi Qian was different. Not only was he a native citizen, he was a big boss in the underground. He was even an Imperial Dragon soldier in the past. Since Yi Qian had signed a treaty of alliance with Lu Shu did not have to worry about Yi Qian betraying him. Thus, he only had to wait for information. He suddenly felt that it was rather nice to have someone run around for him. Yi Qian came back at night. He said to Lu Shu in a soft voice, I have found the person who is ranked number 3. He is from the West Capital, and is the illegitimate son of Duanmu Huangqi. Lu Shu was puzzled. Ding Qiushui was also the illegitimate son of a master. Now, there is another illegitimate son. Are illegitimate children so common? Why don't they nurture their children themselves? Why were they sent to the sword hut? Yi Qian was dumbfounded. Their training will never be as good as that of the sword hut. This time, Lu Shu was dumbfounded. From Yi Qian's words, he completely understood how highly regarded the sword hut was to the people of Luniverse. Yi Qian felt that the training from a Lord of Heaven was not as good as that of the sword hut. This was a matter of fact to them. Lu Shu asked curiously, "Is the sword hut that mystical? Can't the Lord of Heaven nurture a master? Furthermore, look at Ding Qiushui. He is participating in the sword hut selections with the strength of a rank 1. There must be a limit to how much he can grow. It's different." Yi Qian shook his head. To many people, the sword hut is like a belief. Back then, when wars raged throughout the Luniverse, we followed the old King of Gods to open up new territory. But in the process, we gained many enemies. The sword hut had helped the old King of Gods to save a desperate situation many times. Furthermore, entering the sword hut is equivalent to having a gold medal that prevents death. No matter how intense the battles are, they will be able to protect their lives. This is also the reason why Lu Yizhao survived. Who would dare to touch the illegitimate son of a Lord of Heaven? Lu Shu did not understand. There are other Lords of Heaven, said Yi Qian. Moreover, the masters have to create their own rules. To many people, this cannot be taught. They have to rely on their aptitude, talent, and fate. But it seems as if the sword hut has a direct route to achieving the master realm. Although it is still very difficult, they can see the path that they have to embark on. Wait. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. The sword hut can help you advance to the master realm? Are there a lot of masters in the sword hut? Aren't there less than 10 masters in the world? Just how many of them are there? Chapter 988, only 30% of the scenery needed. Till date, there are 4 people who reached the master realm in the sword hut, explained Yi Qian. That's not a lot, said Lu Shu casually. After all, the number of 4 is rather little to ordinary people. 1 person of the master realm is terrifying enough. Yi Qian was surprised. Being a rank 1 expert allows the aristocrats of the palace to last for thousands of years. The Sun family had become the leader of the palace because Sun Zhongyang's father had been named as the genius who was the most likely to reach the master realm in the family. Don't you dare think that those who were willing to become the sacrifice for the Lord of Heaven were incapable. Their powers are extremely shocking. Oh. Lu Shu suddenly realized that he had misunderstood. Then it is sufficient. Everyone says that there are less than 10 people who had reached the master realm in the Luniverse. However, we had surpassed the 10 people mark hundreds of years ago. Amongst them, 1/3 of them came from the sword hut. Yi Qian sighed. This is the reason why everyone scrambles to enter the sword hut. The owner of the sword hut had once said that she only wants 30% of the power of the world. Therefore, the King of Gods collected 30% of the tax of the palace and passed it to the sword hut. Everyone felt that it was too much. However, everyone eventually realized that 30% of those who had reached the master realm came from the sword hut. For some reason, Lu Shu was stunned. He felt as though he could visualize the outstanding appearance of the owner of the sword hut. How powerful must she have been to make the other parties say that? Lu Shu said, indeed, if 1/3 of those who had reached the master realm came from the sword hut, the training capability of the sword hut is terrifying. No wonder, the sword hut is able to live with its name. No, a total of 7 people of the master realm came from the sword hut. 3 of them died in the battle for the King of Gods and the remaining 4, explained Yi Qian. He did not understand why Lu Shu did not understand the situation on the Luniverse. However, his task was to explain to him and did not have the power to ask why Lu Shu was unclear. After waiting for more than 10 years, he was not as lucky as Lu Yizhao to be enlightened by the owner of the sword hut. Therefore, he could only be stranded out in the wild. However, he did not regret it. He had never regretted it and would never regret it in his life. At this moment, Yi Qian said, however, The main reason behind why the sword hut was able to gain its reputation was not because of the number of masters, but rather because the owner of the sword hut was able to surpass the master realm. The people whom I was talking about did not include surpass the master realm? Lu Shu was deep in thought. How powerful would that be? I am afraid that those who had witnessed their powers had all died, sighed Yi Qian. I am afraid that only 3 people in the world could surpass the master realm. One is the old king of gods, one is the owner of the sword hut, and one is the person who is currently in the palace of the king of gods. However, only the owner of the sword hut accepted students. The illegitimate son of the Lord of Heaven will not be sent and accepted just like that by the sword hut. It was no wonder why the vacancies for the sword hut selection was so limited. No wonder the lords of heaven wanted to send his illegitimate sons into the sword hut. It was a chance to rise to the top. However, Lu Shu did not really mind it. That was because he and Lu Xiaoyu only needed to earn distress points in order to surpass the master realm. After all, he had already reached the capability of a rank 1 but had yet to achieve the 5th, 6th, and 7th layers of the nebula. Lu Shu felt that this was quite amusing. It felt as though, if the number of people were enough, the powers of that individuals would come naturally. Oh, hold on a second, Lu Shu felt that something was amiss. The celestial map had always been extremely unreasonable. The method to rise in ranking was also extremely unreasonable. It required others' distress points. However, when this landed in a stupid person's hand, it could be in vain and end up without any distress points. Therefore, sustainability was crucial. The future of the celestial map determined if murders were right. The person who owned the celestial map must be concerned about people's lives. Lu Shu felt that he was extremely philosophical. All right, who cares if he is the illegitimate son of a lord of heaven? Let's go and meet him, and that will be the first stage to get to our objective of rank 1, Lu Shu said in confidence. Look at how I will persuade him. Lu Xiaoyu did not say anything since the start. She looked at Lu Shu's confident face and said, "Good luck. You are just waiting to watch me make a fool of myself, right?" Lu Shu made a gesture. "I will not give you the chance to do that." The illegitimate son of Duanmu Huangqi was called Duanmu Yunj. He did not show his face after reaching the palace but moved into Duanmu Huangqi's residence in the palace. The residence was not official. Very few people knew that it was Duanmu Huangqi's property. However, no secret can remain hidden forever. The palace was the center of political fights. There were definitely spies placed by the different powers, as well as those spies who earned money through tip-offs. Yi Qian was the most famous mercenary. He had dealt with some of these people. Therefore, it was easy for him to buy the information about Duanmu Yunj, who was the 3rd place on the list. Moreover, another advantage was that nobody had thought that Yi Qian was bought over by Lu Shu. Therefore, nobody knew that Lu Shu was the one who was interested in Duanmu Yunj. Lu Shu and Yi Qian arrived outside the residence and flew in. The tall walls were not an obstacle to practitioners. Lu Shu strolled into the residence leisurely and sighed. There were no guards in the residence, and it seemed like Duanmu Yunj was living alone. Lu Shu had once heard that a simple-minded person loved to live in a crowd while those with a complicated state of mind liked to live alone, as they did not trust anyone. That was right. As the illegitimate son of the Lord of Heaven, Duanmu Yunj experienced all different types of battles, including internal family fights and those amongst the lords of heaven. All of them were very dangerous. If Lu Shu grew up in this environment, he would also be unable to trust anyone. "Who are you guys?" A cold voice was heard from the residence. Lu Shu turned at the long corridor and saw a young man in a white shirt sitting with his eyes closed on a floor mat in the backyard. The arrival of Lu Shu and Yi Qian did not cause him to open his eyes. This implied that he was extremely confident. Lu Shu glanced at Yi Qian. "Don't move, watch me." Lu Shu said, "I am here to discuss whether the rank 1s can collaborate and get rid of the rank 2s. Scram, said Duanmu Yunj calmly. Lu Shu sighed and looked at Yi Qian. Why? Yi Qian said,
Ah.
After half an hour, more than half of the residents that was over 10 musuan had collapsed. Lu Shu sighed as he got rid of the dirt on his palms. Why can't we talk nicely? From Duanmu Yunja's Distress, plus 999. Chapter 989, Buying Rankings. The next morning, Lu Shu brought Yi Qian and Lu Xiaoyu out to eat. It was not that an expensive inn like theirs did not have breakfast. Instead, Lu Shu wanted to see how public opinion had changed after the elimination of Duanmu Yunj. Lu Shu understood the cruelty of the sword hut selections. He had as strong a background as the illegitimate son of a lord of heaven. But even he did not dare to wait at the palace, let alone those without a strong background. But Lu Shu was slightly troubled. There were candidates from wealthy families in the palace that were participating in the sword hut selections. Since they hid in their houses, Lu Shu had no other solution. He might as well start a war with the wealthy families in the palace as the commander of the Weiwu army. We've incurred losses, said Lu Shu suddenly as he ate his porridge. Yi Qian was puzzled. He did not understand why Lu Shu would say so. Lu Xiaoyu continued to eat her porridge. She knew what Lu Shu was talking about even without looking up. Wasn't this your plan? Are you regretting not placing bets in the gambling dens earlier? We have lost a big sum of money, said Lu Shu with bitter hatred. If you aren't distressed, so be it. But do you really have to mock me? Lu Xiaoyu looked at Lu Shu and took out a receipt from the gambling den. I placed some bets. The odds of Duanmu Yunj being eliminated were quite high. Lu Shu beamed with joy. He completely did not care about Lu Xiaoyu mocking him. When Yi Qian saw the two of them, he was shocked. When Lu Shu said that he would convince Duanmu Yunj, he was serious. He thought that Lu Shu's plan would definitely be successful. Now he knew that Lu Xiaoyu did not trust Lu Shu. After he and Lu Shu went out, she went to the gambling dens and placed bets. So what kind of combination were they? They had earned money despite mistakes and a strange combination of circumstances. But Yi Qian did not know that this was not a mistake. Lu Xiaoyu had gone to the gambling dens to place bets because of her understanding of Lu Shu. Lu Xiaoyu did not place the bets herself either. Instead, she gave the Ambolite Soul Pearl to Anthony and asked him to place the bets. After all, no one had seen Anthony before. There were many people with strange facial features in the Luniverse. Thus, when the bosses of the gambling dens in the palace heard that Duanmu Yunj had left the palace after being eliminated, they were annoyed. The boss of the Songji gambling den, Xiao Mingze, issued a death order to his subordinates. They had to kill Lu Shu within 3 days. If it was the first time that this had happened, he would not be sure whether it was Lu Shu. But now, he was very sure. No one other than Lu Shu would do this. The Songji gambling den had worked together with Lu Shu. They understood him well. Xiao Mingze did not doubt whether Lu Shu had the ability to do so. His chief officer, Zhao Shuai, had conveyed the information that Lu Shu was the strongest rank 2 he had met. If Lu Shu had successfully advanced to rank 1, he would be unusually strong. This time, Anthony went to exchange the receipt from the gambling dens. When he took out the receipt, Xiao Mingze was shocked. Xiao Mingze said something to Anthony, but Anthony did not answer. He took the money and left. Xiao Mingze sent someone to stop Anthony, but he entered a dead end and disappeared. There was more than one person following Anthony. They had almost surrounded the dead end, but never saw Anthony go out. Anthony had disappeared right in front of so many people. They suddenly thought of one technique, mid-soil escape. Xiao Mingze was very uncomfortable. He suddenly realized that there might be experts supporting Lu Shu. The foundation of the Weiwu army was much stronger than he had imagined. Lu Shu happily sat at the table, as if he had won the lottery. It had just fallen into his lap. He suddenly said, "Look. 2 out of the 8 rank ones have been eliminated. No one has suspected me even though the number of my competitors have decreased. Although there are some mistakes in my plan, the results are still good." Lu Xiaoyu looked at him, puzzled. "Why do you think that no one has suspected you?" Lu Shu was dumbfounded. "Duanmu Yunj has left." "No worries. He has not interacted with anyone. Furthermore, when I went there, no one looked at me. No one will discover that I was the one who did it. Thus, I'm still hiding in the dark. No one will know about my ability." At that moment, 2 people walked past them. One of them said, "Duanmu Yunj has been eliminated. I even bet that he would be able to enter the sword hut. Who would do such an immoral thing?" When Lu Shu heard this, he was unhappy. Helping them quit gambling was a good thing. How had it become immoral? But as he was about to make them rephrase themselves, the other person suddenly said, "Don't you know who did such an immoral thing? It was definitely Lu Shu, the commander of the Weiwu army. Who else would do this?" Lu Shu was dumbfounded. He had been discovered just like that? The person said, "Look at the new booklet that the Songji Gambling Den released today. Did you realize something? The people ranked 2nd and 3rd have been eliminated, but Lu Shu is still there. What does this mean? It was not a coincidence that the 2nd and 3rd people were eliminated by a fluke. Lu Shu is unharmed. It must have been him. Everyone in the palace thinks that he is the culprit." Lu Shu was shocked. What in the world? Lu Xiaoyu continued to drink her porridge calmly. She looked at Lu Shu, as if she was saying, "Are you still going to boast?" At that moment, the passers-by sat at the store and shouted to the owner, "Boss, 2 bowls of porridge and 2 plates of carrot sticks." "Got it." The boss shouted. The passerby continued. "Your family is too strict to not allow you to go out. You don't know how severe the situation in the palace is now. Everyone thinks that Lu Shu is upset by the fact that his previous attempt was not harsh enough. Thus, he came to the palace to cheat everyone else. Have you ever heard of the commander participating in the sword hut selections? I have never heard of this before. Then what about the bets you have placed in the gambling dens?" The other person was curious. "What else can I do? I adjusted the odds. The bets that I placed the other day are all gone. Now, people are betting on who will be the next to be eliminated." The passerby drank his porridge. Now, the odds of the person ranked 4th are the lowest. He is the heir of a wealthy family. He might even become the head of the family in the future. Although he is still nowhere to be seen, Lu Shu might already have his eyes on him. What does this have to do with him? Lu Shu is going down the list as he eliminates people. The people ranked 2nd and 3rd have been eliminated. The 4th person will be next, right? The passerby laughed. You might not know this, but his family is talking to the gambling dens. He is trying to get money from people. Not only is the Li family doing this, all wealthy families want to enter the sword hut. They have started to buy rankings for others. In the past, everyone wanted higher rankings to increase their influence. But now, it was different. They wanted to buy higher rankings for others. If they had a rivalry with someone, they would buy him the 4th position. He would be done for by the next day. Chapter 990, The Weiwu Army Beats Up the Bandits. Lu Shu silently listened to the passers-by chat. He was melancholic. Why was the entire palace sure that he was the one who had eliminated Duanmuyang and Ding Qiushui? Did they have proof to say so? But the problem was, no matter whether it was the people of the palace, or the candidates of the sword hut selections, they did not quite know him. To everyone, their impression of Lu Shu was that of an expert who considered himself to be the best in the world. He targeted the strongest candidates on the list. Thus, they felt that Lu Shu went down the rankings. As a result, this had happened. All the rank 2 candidates that had been eliminated by Lu Shu were overlooked. Many people did not know that Lu Shu had eliminated them as well. But to Lu Shu, he had just done some planning. When he visited these people, he did not plan on eliminating them. Have you realized a rule? Lu Xiaoyu looked at Yi Qian. Yi Qian was dumbfounded. What rule? Lu Xiaoyu calmly said, all the candidates of the Sword Hut selections that Lu Shu sees have a 100% chance of being eliminated. There is no use buying rankings. They just have to pray that they are not seen by Lu Shu. That seems to be the case. You understand boss well. Just as they were talking, Yi Qian suddenly realized that Lu Xiaoyu was slightly happy after Yi Qian had spoken. Lu Xiaoyu said to Yi Qian, you have a pair of eyes that are good at discovering things. Yi Qian was speechless. What are you talking about? Lu Shu had thought about it thoroughly. He turned and said to Lu Xiaoyu, I think that if they are really buying rankings, we can decide how to make money after observing for one day. After all, I really am not going down the rankings when eliminating people. Then, boss, how will you eliminate people? Yi Qian asked curiously. I will eliminate the person whose odds are the highest, said Lu Shu as if it was a matter of fact. With Lu Shu's current amount of money, he could buy 4,500 sets of magical armor. Of course, this was not including the money made by the Weiwu army when they sold soap. Lu Shu felt that although the gambling den was a profitable business, there were not many opportunities to do so. They bought and sold tickets. After all, they still had to wait for some time before earning money. But for the Weiwu army, selling soap was a constant supply of income for them. Many major traveling businessmen and even small businessmen headed towards Nanging City. It was a lucrative product. Everyone wanted to earn some money from this. Thus, he did not earn less money from his soap business. Lu Shu had spent a lot of effort attracting these traveling businessmen. First, he improved the basic facilities in Nanging City and ensured that the traveling businessmen had food to eat and a place to stay. Many people in the Weiwu army did not know the significance of this, but now, they slowly realized that when services like inns, roads, gambling dens, and hotels had improved, traveling businessmen were happier coming to Nanging City. Furthermore, Nanging City attracted many foreign traveling businessmen who wanted to invest in the entertainment industry. The entire Nanging City was flourishing. Even the taxes had increased significantly. The roads of Nanging City were paved with limestone bricks. The city was much cleaner than before. There were people cleaning the streets every day. There was even a place to burn rubbish outside the city. There was a significant increase in the number of service staff in the city. This was what the taxes collected were used for. Recently, there was a saying among the traveling businessmen. In the past, when they went to other cities, they felt that they paid taxes for the head of the city to use. It was only in Nanging City where they felt that the taxes were truly used for the sake of the people. This was a compliment. This meant that everyone had enjoyed the benefits of service in Nanging City. Of course, the brothel industry started to flourish as well, but Lu Shu had no way of telling Zhang Weiyu that this was no good. The concepts were different. On Earth, it was against the law. But in the Luniverse, it could only be classified as a hygiene problem at worst. Other than the basic facilities in Nanging City, Lu Shu also requested the Weiwu army to get rid of any bandits who were hiding. This was to ensure that the traveling businessmen felt safe coming here. With the current ability of the Weiwu army, killing bandits was extremely easy. The bandits near Nanging City all moved away. They could not provoke the Weiwu army. Under typical circumstances, a rank 3 bandit would be considered amazing. But the Weiwu army was different. Rank 3 was considered a low rank in the Weiwu army. They lived in the mountains. They did not have to worry about any dangers. What natural dangers could stop a practitioner? The only thing that could stop a practitioner was another practitioner. Furthermore, their scout could fly. Later on, after the bandits left, they realized that the Wei Wu army was expanding their range of attack. They could still see the Wei Wu army after moving over 50 kilometers away. Everyone was puzzled. This was too much. But they did not know that this was the characteristic of the Wei Wu army. Now, the Wei Wu army was not lacking in money. They felt no pressure outside. Furthermore, the greatest benefit in eliminating these bandits was that they did not have to do homework. When Li Haitan and the rest found out about this, they went crazy. When they heard that there were bandits, no matter how far away they would eliminate them. At first, the bandits had no choice but to hide. Later on, they felt that there was something wrong about the mice around them. On one hand, there were changes in their appearances. Many mice had a tuft of black fur on their head. On the other hand, these mice were much more powerful than them. Before the Wei Wu army came, they would dream about a white squirrel asking them whether they wanted to buy soap. Beating up bandits changed the impression of Nanging City for the traveling businessmen. In the past, when people were beaten up, they would find a governor and say, "Master, we have been beaten up. We cannot do our business. Please help us to eliminate them." The Nanging City was on another level. Li Haitan waited at the entrance of the city and asked people whether they had seen any bandits. As long as they were in the north region, it did not matter where they were. The Wei Wu army would help them to get rid of their worries. The traveling businessmen in Nanging City sighed with emotion. This was the correct attitude to have when doing business. They could decrease the prices of their goods slightly. The traveling businessmen thought that it was not easy for the Wei Wu army to earn money. It must have been very difficult. Now, Nanging City was very peaceful. Thus, Wei Wu army started to expand their sphere of activity. They even entered the territory of many aristocrat armies and the Longmeng army. Everyone was very angry. Their activities did not follow the rules. Which other army was like them? Everyone gathered and discussed whether they should warn the Wei Wu army. But when the time came, they were all scared. No one dared to say anything. After all, it was already difficult enough to live. This was the name that Wei Wu army had painstakingly built for themselves. Everyone in the Wei Wu army knew that these were the changes that Lu Shu had brought to everyone.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.